Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. As a Michigan fan myself, I feel like we are having this conversation almost on a weekly basis. And that is, hey, Michigan is just operating differently on the recruiting trail over the last couple of months. You look up Tuesday night, the same old storyline. Michigan's going to get a visit now in the spring from five-star quarterback Ryder Lyons from the state of California. Now, there are probably some Michigan fans sitting there and saying, all right, well, what does that mean for Michigan's chances in this recruitment? What you've seen over the last couple of weeks is kind of the stars aligning and the dominoes falling the way Michigan needs them to really have a chance in this one. You look at Ryder Lyons, all right, five-star quarterback from the state of California. The first school that you immediately think of is USC. USC was for really over the last year considered the leader in the clubhouse for Ryder Lyons, and they still might be considered the leader in the clubhouse. But you kind of look at what's gone on with USC, they end up flipping quarterback Jonas Williams from Oregon to USC, and they lock in their 2026 quarterback. Now, how big of an impact does this have on Ryder Lyons? That's probably to be determined because we all know Ryder Lyons is going to take a 12-month mission trip after he graduates high school. So he's essentially a 2027 kid. But USC locks in their 2026 quarterback with Jonas Williams. And then you look at Oregon. Oregon kind of considered the number 2 team in this recruitment. They're pushing their chips into the middle of the table for quarterback Jared Curtis, who is visiting Eugene, Oregon, over the weekend. If Jared Curtis commits to Oregon at some point over the next couple of weeks or months, those are the 2 top contenders for Ryder Lyons who have quarterbacks locked in the 2026 cycle. Now, again, to my USC fans and Oregon fans who are listening to this, that certainly does not rule either of these programs out, but it certainly gives Michigan an opportunity to kind of wedge their way into this recruitment. And I think one of the biggest storylines here is it really matches up for Michigan in their kind of quarterback runway, so to speak, where you have Bryce Underwood coming in as a freshman. I think we all expect Bryce Underwood to be a 3-year and done kind of guy. And as a Michigan fan, that's probably what you should be rooting for. Because if Bryce Underwood's 3 years and off to the NFL, that means we kind of got the most out of Bryce Underwood. Now, if that's the way that plays out, Ryder Lyons is coming to Michigan during Bryce Underwood's 3rd year. Again, with that mission trip that he's going to be taking after he graduates. That's the ideal quarterback runway where you get Bryce Underwood in year 3, balls out, goes to the NFL, and then you have Ryder Lyons kind of sitting on the bench as a freshman, being a sponge and potentially being the guy after Bryce Underwood leaves the program. In terms of a quarterback runway situation, I don't think you could ask for a better runway for a guy like Ryder Lyons. And I think that's why you're seeing Michigan push their chips into the middle of the table potentially for a guy like Ryder Lyons. One of the biggest storylines is, hey, if you told me as a Michigan fan 12 months ago that Michigan had the opportunity to not only land the number 1 quarterback in the class in 2025 in Bryce Underwood, the number 1 player in the country in Bryce Underwood, and then the following recruiting cycle be in it for arguably the best quarterback in the 2026 cycle in Ryder Lyons, I think a lot of us Michigan fans would have been stunned. But you're kind of seeing it play out. It kind of speaks to how Michigan is going about their business on the recruiting trail and why I think it's such a big deal for Michigan is Michigan's trying to change the narrative around this program, I think. A lot of us Michigan fans kind of frustrated with what it looks like on the recruiting trail, recruiting wide receivers. Why is Michigan struggling so much to get in top-end wide receivers? Because the passing game has not been very prolific for Michigan, especially in that 2024 year. You go out and land a guy like Bryce Underwood, and then you stack a guy like Ryder Lyons on top of him. And then you have some really, really good quarterback play over the next couple of years. When you start putting that quarterback play together, when you start putting that passing attack together, suddenly wide receivers are looking at Michigan and not viewing it as a program that is just going to run the football every time and we're not going to have an opportunity to produce. Suddenly wide receivers are looking at this program saying, hey, they got really good quarterback play. They got really good passing attacks. I have the opportunity to come to Michigan and put up some big-time numbers. That's what stands out to me is Michigan's working on kind of changing that narrative. And I think it starts with the quarterback position. You stack elite quarterback play, elite passing attacks, the 5-star wide receiver talent is going to come. And if Michigan can obviously have success with a guy like Bryce Underwood, and then maybe have some success with a guy like Ryder Lyons. That is how you change the narrative of this Michigan program as a whole. I want to give a shout out to Chip Lindsey too. And I think looking back on the Chip Lindsey hire, it was not the flashiest hire when we talked about it, I believe, in the month of December. One of the things that's standing out is, Chip Lindsey's known for his quarterback development, and he has recruited quarterbacks for a very long time on the collegiate ranks. He's got a lot of relationships with quarterback coaches and high school coaches from across the country. Chip Lindsey's flexing his muscle in terms of what he can do recruiting quarterbacks, and I think that means something with this Michigan program. I want to get a little bit more into Ryder Lyons, talk about what he could bring to the table for Michigan. And there's something about Ryder Lyons that I do want to emphasize as well. Before we get into it, as always, to the Michigan fans, y'all know I love talking the recruiting trail. The amount of support that y'all have continued to show to the boys has been amazing. We're obviously going to have a lot to talk about over the next couple of weeks and months. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, let's get into it. And let's start with, all right, what does Ryder Lyons bring to the table? Why is he one of the best quarterbacks in this 2026 cycle? He's a difference maker at the quarterback spot, and you've seen Michigan really prioritize this, not only with a guy like Bryce Underwood, the guy like Ryder Lyons as well. One of the most, there's a lot of things that frustrated us Michigan fans about that offense and that quarterback play in 2024. Probably the most frustrating was not having a quarterback that was a difference maker. One of the things that we all loved about J.J. McCarthy is when it was time to be a difference maker, when it was time to get outside the pocket and go be an athlete and throw off platform, he could. And I think Jim Harbaugh phrased it the best. He would make wine out of water. A play that maybe was broken, J.J. McCarthy can go save it because he's an athlete. We didn't have that last year, right? Davis Warren didn't have that ability to go make wine out of water. Bryce Underwood certainly has that ability. Ryder Lyons does too. Ryder Lyons reminds me a little bit of Jackson Dart. Is Ryder Lyons the elite athlete runner of the football that Bryce Underwood is? No, but you turn on the film, he is super twitchy. He is super difficult for defensive linemen to try to bring down in the pocket, not only manipulating the pocket, but getting outside the pocket as well. And when he does get outside of that pocket, the arm talent is all there. I mean, in terms of throwing off platform, Ryder Lyons can do all of that. And then the high school production backs it up too. 68% completion percentage, 84 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, over 6,500 passing yards in the last 2 years. Big time physical traits, big time production, difference maker at the quarterback spot. Those are the boxes that Michigan is looking to check. And it sounds like I don't know if I'd say similar vibes to Bryce Underwood, because that was one of the more unique recruitments I think we've all seen in all of college football. But it seems like it's a very similar Michigan kind of waiting in the weeds a little bit, right? USC and Oregon have been the two programs that have been getting the most amount of buzz with Ryder Lyons. There's a presence with BYU as well. Michigan's has been on the outside looking in. With this visit that Ryder Lyons is making, I think it shows us that Michigan's got a little bit better of a chance than we thought with Ryder Lyons in this 2026 class. And the timeline makes so much sense, because we said it's probably going to be hard for Michigan to go out and land an elite quarterback in 2026 coming off Bryce Underwood, because that means that elite quarterback in 2026 is going to have to sit for 2 years. Because Ryder Lyons is taking that mission trip, he's essentially a 2027 guy. And so he's only going to have to sit out 1 year before he can take over this offense, which I think makes a lot of sense for Michigan as well. A new storyline for us Michigan fans to monitor over the next couple of weeks. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.